Yo, what's going on everybody? It's your boy Naruto Explain here, bringing you guys another Boruto 2 Blue Vortex discussion. Today I wanted to talk to you guys about something that Boruto 2 Blue Vortex chapter 6 has brought into question, which is the situation of Kawaki's character finds himself in following the chapter because Kawaki was taken out by Mitsuki off screen at that, and it's led to some concern that Kawaki is on fraud watch. And as some of you guys joked down below in the comment section, he's not just on fraud watch, but that boy is currently on trial for defrauding readers of the Boruto manga. However, I think what we're getting with Kawaki actually makes sense if I'm being honest with you, and in today's video I'm going to explain to you why. I'm not going to waste time going over the whole how was Kawaki poisoned, that makes no sense, because I already did a video blowing up this whole poison thing, that it doesn't work on Otsutsuki, that whole argument, it doesn't hold any weight, so I'm not going to repeat any of those talking points here. If you're curious about that, you can watch that video. But I do want to circle back to the whole Kawaki thing, because I think what we're getting here is with Kawaki's character is actually something that is setting up for a bigger payoff at the end that will come into importance later on in the story. But it can be hard to see it now if you aren't taking stock of what the narrative is actually currently doing for us. Typically, when you get shown in time skips, you expect a character to come out of said time skip with noticeable bumps and power creeps that go past the previous benchmarks that we saw previously. Classic example in Naruto being how in Naruto Part 1, Jonin level was considered a really big deal. And then you came out of the time skipping at people like Naruto and Sai and Sakura. They are all at Jonin levels of power. Kage level in Naruto Part 1 was considered to be this extremely exclusive high bar that not many people could climb up to, which is why Heavy Sasuke, which reminder that is Sasuke who does not have the Mangekyo Sharingan, that Sasuke being able to destroy Team 7 and Yamato so easily, that's why it shocked everyone. But as we would continue to see the story as it progressed onward, Kage level became something that didn't matter as much because we were going into 10 tails levels and demigod levels and god levels of power, 6 pass levels of power and beyond. With Kawaki, we have a current character who ended Part 1, and you could argue that at the end of Part 1 he was as strong as Jigen, slightly weaker than Jigen, or maybe slightly stronger than Jigen, but he was weaker than the Ishiki and weaker than Burial Mode Naruto and weaker than Code Without Limiters. The benchmarks at the end of Boruto Naruto Next Generations as we had them were Burial Mode Naruto, Ishiki, Daemon, and Code Without Limiters, and most importantly Jigen. They were the measuring sticks that were used by the narrative, and Jigen was the minimum bare floor that people were using to say, oh, this is a new threat. Are they stronger than Jigen? Or are they weaker than Jigen? Can they handle a Jigen level threat? And you just scaled them upward from there, which made Daemon tap dancing on Code's spine while singing Baby Shark do 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 so hilarious and scary at the same time. There were levels to this game for expectations, and many of us expected Kawaki to come out higher and swinging at the fences as this big bad monster coming up out of the time skip. However, what we're seeing so far makes it feel as if Kawaki was a bit of an afterthought. When Boruto pulled up into the village, he wasn't even concerned about Kawaki, partly because his attention was locked in on Code. But given everything that we've seen from Boruto so far, given how high his base has grown in 3 years, it doesn't seem as if he's not worried about Kawaki as he currently is, because base Boruto is already going so high above Jigen and isn't even using his Chroma Shield that it's scary. Then we got the Shinjuu who appear to be going even further beyond that just based off what we've seen. So Kawaki looks even less impressive than before, and people holding Kawaki stocks are all selling before it crashes. That's exactly why I like what we're seeing here with Kawaki, because while he has clearly trained in the sense that he's showing better usage of Ishiki's dojutsu via the ability to use the dojutsu multiple times without tiring out like we saw in Part 1, and he's also shown us that he's learned the ability to fly. So there is something there that we're seeing with Kawaki in terms of growth, but the most important thing is that Kawaki is showing us that during this 3-year time skip, he's actually walking the path that Naruto did during the initial time skip between the end of the 4th Ninja War and the first start that we had of the Boruto era. There was a 14-year time skip between the end of Naruto chapter 699 and chapter 700 and Naruto Gaiden, the 7th Hokage and the Scarlet Spring. i.e. chapters 701 to 710. We know Naruto got stronger during that time, but his battle sense had gotten very rusty. Naruto, once he became Hokage for a majority of that time, became complacent with where his power was, and he didn't actually actively start training again until after the Shin Uchiha stuff. Kawaki is walking a similar path based on what we've seen. He's improved during that 3-year time skip, but his battle senses, they have dulled. Kawaki from 3 years ago was not going to get caught off guard by a claw grime, a Rinnegan, or no Rinnegan, because his battle senses, they were razor sharp, because the only thing that he'd known for most of his life up until that point was true combat, fighting life or death battles via training with Jigen daily and getting punishments from people like Delta. When Kawaki was first introduced, there was a clear distinction between himself and the other members of Team 7, because he was someone who had a real sense of combat because he had seen real combat. That's not to say Team 7 had never experienced life or death combat, because they had, but the type of upbringing that Kawaki had, he was forced to endure something different altogether. Since he's been in Konoha living Boruto's life, the only person who he's had to worry about being stronger than him was Daemon. The only real action that he probably had is training with Mitsuki, someone who at the start of the time skip, even using Sage Mode, wouldn't have been strong enough to actually make that much of a challenge for Kawaki given all of his hack's abilities. Now, where Mitsuki is currently with Sage Mode, we don't know, but we do know that Sage Mode Mitsuki, Boruto, even after being fatigued fighting against Kawaki, was still able to dodge his attacks, so he wouldn't have put up that much of a fight against somebody like Kawaki at full power. It was inevitable that Kawaki became rusty under these conditions, just as Naruto getting the most training that he had after he became Hokage, but before the events of Naruto chapter 700, the most training that Naruto had gotten was training Boruto directly in combat via hide-and-seek combat drills, where Naruto will use shadow clones to train Boruto, while Naruto had handled day-to-day operations as Hokage, which eventually got to a point where it didn't even satisfy Boruto. But like Kawaki, once Naruto became Hokage, he lost the drive to actually train. And the little bit of training he did wasn't anything special. It took Kurama making fun of Naruto for getting rusty after becoming Hokage for him to start back getting into the swing of things training again, which we saw in the anime. Kawaki just saw Boruto pull back up into the village with his own brand new jutsu, the Flying Raijin Jutsu. Kawaki was getting tagged off guard by the claw grimes. The shinjuu are now targeting Kawaki and Naruto, and you had the bigger issue that Mitsuki was able to tag Kawaki off guard and knock him unconscious. Again, it's off guard, but for someone with as much pride as Kawaki, that's going to light a fire in him to knock off the rust, or it's going to make him more desperate and mistake prone than ever before, both of which are really good storytelling because it adds additional layers to the conflict while also continuing to build on parallels. We saw how Boruto reacted to Kawaki having more skill with the Karma Seal and being more experienced in the viciousness of combat, where Boruto's pretty ninjutsu and elegant Hyuga Palm strikes, they didn't mean anything against a guy willing to fire out Chakra Blasts at random, telling Boruto, either you learn to absorb these Chakra Blasts or you keep getting hit by them until you learn to use Karma, and if you die in the process, yo fam, you just die in the process. Eventually, Boruto got to a point where he worked his butt off and dogged Kawaki in their final sparring match before Kawaki eventually overtook him again at the end of part 1 of the story. But with Boruto, we watched that fire grow inside of him and he pushed his limits to reach the bar that was set for him. How does Kawaki react when he's the one playing catch up? That's going to be interesting from a narrative that we have moving forward with the story. Now, I get it. It can be really frustrating to see someone like Kawaki, who we expected to come out of the time skip as some Giga Chad, end up getting exposed as being a virgin Konohamaru in the worst case, or at the best case scenario, he's a voluntary celibate Shino, where he's rusty, but he can knock it off with a little bit of effort, opposed to someone utterly hopeless like Konohamaru. However, him getting an obstacle to overcome is something I think works because it continues that reverse parallel. Sasuke popped up out of the Naruto time skip ahead of Naruto, and in the time skips we got after the 4th Ninja War, both the 14-year time skip and then the additional year following the Shin arc, Sasuke had way less rust on him than Naruto did. Boruto being the one more seasoned in combat and better improved with a deeper bag of jutsu that he can dig into, it makes a lot more sense. He spent a year directly training under Sasuke, and he's been running for his life from the moment he left the village, and Boruto has had the added incentive to grow stronger because he just wants to avenge his sensei and turn him back to normal. He feels guilt because of that. That's the difference between Boruto and Kawaki right now. Boruto's in a position where life gave him a bag of turds and he had to find a way to turn those turds and eliminate. Versus Kawaki, he's currently sitting at the buffet table for the first time in his life, and he's starting to feel that pressure around his waist that comes from eating a little more than he can handle, and he's slower because he's bloated, which is basically saying Kawaki got fat and rusty while living a life of luxury, whereas Boruto is still starving and hungry, and that hunger is driving him to stay sharper because he's in survival mode right now. He is in desperation mode right now. I don't think we have anything to worry about, honestly. It's not like Kawaki will end up being any worse off than we saw him in the last manga chapter, where the boy is going night-night, counting ramen bowls while he's hugging his Naruto blanket, which you can watch the review by clicking the link that you see on the screen right here.